Hey Disney! Now I know it's super convenient for you guys to just remake films you've already made because all the hard work has basically already been done for you, by you? But can we pump the brakes a little on these totally inessential remakes of classic movies? Do we really need a Dumbo remake, an Aladdin remake, and a The Lion King remake all in the same year of 2019? Oh wait, hang on, I'm just getting some breaking news. It turns out I was wrong. There aren't only 3 Disney remakes coming out in 2019. Turns out there are 4. Turns out The Lady and the Tramp is getting a live-action treatment too, apparently. They're pumping them out so fast, I can't even keep up. The chances are you're gonna have some affinity for at least one of the classic 2D animated Disney movies. For me, it's Tarzan, Hercules, The Sword in the Stone, and Treasure Planet. I'll always have a soft spot for these films. No matter how flawed they might be to watch as an adult, they're so ingrained into my brain that I can remember nearly every scene and line of dialogue off by heart. Hell, the very first film I saw at the cinema was The Little Mermaid when I was a kid. Of course, Disney knows the power they hold over us, and we all know that for Disney, nostalgia is the teat that keeps on teating. Infinite teats for the sucking, providing that luscious, fatty mother's milk of safety, predictability, and comfort that people are willing to pay for again and again and again. If the original idea's well has dried up or gone to shit, they know all they have to do is hold our childhoods to ransom and cash in on the invaluable brand recognition and goodwill it garners. I feel that as a business decision for Disney, remaking old classic movies of theirs is actually a pretty good move. It's far less risky because everyone's already familiar with the property. They don't have to sell us on anything. The story and characters are already laid out for them, and they have a built-in audience of adults, parents, teenagers who remember the properties fondly, and there are also children who are ready to experience these stories for the first time. It's been proven that these films are capable of bringing in the big bucks, but at what cost? The answer is around $200 million. I don't think the idea of remaking classic movies is inherently bad, necessarily. However, more often than not, you can clearly see how cynical and lifeless the decision-making is behind the curtain. It's as clear as a summer's day how much more the scales are in favor of the business over the creative, without the balance that is required for the art form to have any semblance of integrity. What I hate most about these remakes is how they seem to completely disregard what is special about the originals. Much like the fantastical fairy tale stories all of these movies tell, 2D animation has the unique quality of being timeless and beautiful, no matter its age. Whether we're talking about Lilo and Stitch in 2002, Robin Hood in 1973, or Bambi in 1942, God, that movie's old. Because of the everlasting intrinsic artistry of hand-drawn animation, these films will never look bad, which is such a rare and valuable aspect of the presentation, and no doubt an intentional one. Of course, it's a lot more time-consuming and expensive than animating Jimmy Neutron in a computer, but the end product more than speaks for itself. This is why it's so frustrating to see Disney, the same company who allowed these intricate works of art to be their bread and butter for decades and define their identity, allow for such flat and dull-looking movies to be released under their name. Of course, what I'm talking about is how the production value of these live-action remakes are so dull, gloomy, and confused in their art direction that it's hard to figure out what they're even going for. Let's take this trailer for Jon Favreau's The Lion King remake as an example. It's effectively a shot-for-shot remake of the classic scene from the original movie, except everything has changed for the worse. The color palette is less moody and atmospheric. The shot composition is less expressive. It feels completely different, despite showing us the exact same thing. The devil really is in the details when it comes to animation. Sure, it's impressive to show how photorealistic we can render animals in a computer, but the entire appeal of Disney animated movies is the character designs. What do all of these characters have in common? At a single glance, you can tell exactly how they're feeling. The entire point of choosing these animals, these character designs, and these stories and scenes is to convey a specific emotion. You can take any frame from the original Lion King, and all the information you need about how the character is feeling and the mood of the scene is displayed perfectly because of how expressive the animation and artwork is. What is this photorealistic baboon thinking? I'm scared of it. Whereas in the original, when I see this guy, I want to sit down and eat a banana with him. He looks friendly and inviting. Why would I want to be reminded how frightening and intimidating baboons, lions, and other scary animals are? Isn't the entire story of The Lion King pretty reliant on us connecting and empathizing with the characters? How am I supposed to empathize with a real lion? The reason animation is so fun and interesting is because it's able to make us empathize and relate with anything. It's like if they remade WALL-E, but instead of being an ultra cute dibby with huge binocular eyes, he looked like this. I don't want to hug this thing. I'm terrified of this. It's not anthropomorphic like all the old movies. It's boring. This is a huge issue for me with the 2017 Beauty and the Beast remake. What the hell are these character designs? You really think the artists on the original movie intended for this candle to be photorealistic in any way? The reason the original designs work so well is because they're not realistic, but still resemble what they're supposed to. And don't get me started on the Beast. Oh my god, it's atrocious. What the hell is that supposed to be? This design is so perfect. It's expressive and adaptable to the story. This one looks like an unused design Del Toro scrapped for Pan's Labyrinth. Ugh, what a creative mess. The greatest irony is these gritty reboots are gonna need to be rebooted themselves, as they're not gonna hold up at all in the future because their only artistic merit is to show off how photorealistic they can make their CGI spectacles. Films that tend to lean on nothing but showing off how impressive their computer graphics are tend to be the ones that age the worst. And what is the deal with these movies being referred to as live action? It would be like calling Terminator 2 an animated movie because there's one CG character. The Lion King doesn't even have any human characters in the story. How is this live action? Take the CG out of something like the 2016 Jungle Book, and it looks like this. So what would I like to see change? Well, if they insist on continually making these godforsaken empty cash grabs, I'd like to see one of two things. Either stop making them, which I know won't happen until they stop making money, or why not try to be a little more true to the source material? Don't remove the color, life, art direction, and energy for this dull, factory-produced synthetic look. These films are practically entirely animated in a computer anyway, so why not just adapt the 2D movies into 3D ones, in a similar style to Tangled, Frozen, or Moana, if you're so desperate to milk recognizable intellectual properties? At least then there'd be some kind of brand cohesion going on. It'd be way more marketable too. You could sell so many toys. At least that way you'd have the vibrant, exaggerated nature of animated films to work with that are in the same ballpark of presentation. Hell, this way you may even be able to reuse the classic voice acting, so you don't have to worry about shitting all over famous performances like Robin Williams from Aladdin. Now I know it's not technically the same studios that made them, but I would pay good money for some of the classic Pixar movies to be remastered in such a way that would make them timeless. My only issue with classic films like Toy Story or The Incredibles is that nowadays certain aspects of them are a tad dated, simply because of how advanced technology is now. Can you imagine that instead of Toy Story 4, they just re-released the original Toy Story that is the exact same film, but every shot is just updated to the fidelity of what we're capable of now? There's every chance it could still ruin the film, George Lucas style, but as long as the original versions are still available, what harm could it really do? It would certainly be lucrative, and the hard part, as mentioned earlier, is already done. You don't have to implement any level of creativity at all. The video game industry is making bucket loads of money by remastering classic games. Some of them even let you toggle between how they used to look, as a sign of respect and appreciation, and it gives people a choice. The point is, remakes and remasters can be done right. I just think this live action direction Disney has taken kind of goes against everything their films stood for, and they have the money, talent, and influence available to be doing a much better job. You can enjoy Seth Rogen and some guy from Bob's Burgers doing a weird imitation of Timon and Pumbaa, but I won't, because even on paper, that sounds like a bad idea.